Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Chocolate Travels. I'm here with Pep from Lareka Chocolate Packaging, so packaging company in the Netherlands. So welcome, Pep. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much for the introduction.
Excellent. So, I talk to a lot of chocolate makers, and we talk a lot about the chocolate process of making the chocolate or selling the chocolate. But packaging is a very important aspect, obviously, when it comes to especially craft chocolate, because each bar has to showcase what they're all about. And efficiency-wise, packaging could be a real issue for makers. So it'll be a good topic to talk about today.
Yeah, for sure. It's part of chocolate. So
Yes. How long has Lareka Chocolate Packaging been in business, and how did it all come together?
we are actually quite an old company. The exact date from which I cannot tell you, but it's somewhere early 1900s. We back in the day, we come from the cigar and tobacco industry. So back in the day, we were a technical department of a manufacturer of cigars.
Oh,
And we were the maintenance party of the equipment. Then in a later stage, we started actually building machines, which was already more in the packaging corner. So we made machines to, for example, to cellophane cigarettes or to put stickers on the packaging. But that was all a while back, and then about 15 years ago, a new owner came and he said, "Well, the tobacco industry, is that an industry that we want to proceed or not?" And then the decision came to go into confectionery.
okay.
So where we learned how to wrap a chocolate bar is more from the industrial guys,
Right.
people like
Okay.
Lindt or Cadbury or like big brands of
Right.
chocolate.
Right.
High-speed machines. That's where we learned all the tips and tricks on how to wrap chocolate. And then about 10 years to 5 years ago, the first signs of the market started shifting, and we saw this so many requests of like
Mm,
bean to bar or artisanal guys that needed a packaging machine, but not something that runs at 300 bars a minute.
right.
They
Right.
needed something flexible, something easy in maintenance, something easy to operate. So that's where new machinery was developed, and that's our
And
core business now. So we,
okay.
we do some in the industrial market, but almost everything right now is just bean to bar craft chocolate makers that we build packaging machines for.
What are the values that Lareka possess, and how does that relate maybe to craft chocolate companies today?
Well, something which we value a lot is there are not many machines on the market, packaging machines on the market that are suitable for craft chocolate makers. Something, the biggest difference we see at Lareka, the questions you get when you talk to somebody from Lindt are completely different than the questions that you get when you talk to
Mm,
somebody from a bean to bar company.
mm,
Um, they never have even bought a single bobbin of foil in their life before. So something which we value a lot is that we understand that a
mm.
craft chocolate maker has different questions than most of the industry in chocolate making has. And we know a packaging machine can be tough in the beginning. So something which we value a lot is to actually help the customer there to answer all those questions, to come out 2 or 3 times to the customer if they need more
Okay.
assistance
Hmm.
on packaging machines. And that's something, if you start talking to an industrial party, after a week, they go crazy from the questions because the questions are like, well, why don't you know this?
Mm, mm.
Meanwhile, a bean to bar maker, they have grown so much over the years. But for them, it's their first packaging machine, which
Right.
brings just different questions. So that's where we differentiate from more industrial parties. It's like willing to answer all the questions, take the time, organize 10, 15 video calls if needed to go over things again and help them with packaging designs, help them design their packaging in order so that it's able to be packed on the machine.
Mm,
So that's all that kind of stuff. But we'll get into that more
yeah.
later.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine when you're dealing with the big industry guys versus the bean to bar maker, it's definitely a different approach. And I imagine the bean to bar makers, they're stepping into territory that is much more risky for them financially. For them, they don't have a ton of money all the time. And so to put money into more equipment, especially equipment they've never used before,
Yeah.
there can be some hesitance there.
And it's also a matter of uncertainty because if they go with their first questions to a packaging company that is used to dealing with industrial manufacturers, the questions they will think, why are they asking these questions? Because they don't understand
Right,
the questions a bean to bar maker faces
right,
when they grow to the scale of that they actually need a packaging machine.
right. Yeah. Now, for me too, if I've wanted anything printed, for instance, from a printer, and going to maybe a printer that deals with big production lines of printing things, and I just need a few, like a few
Yeah,
hundred of something, it's intimidating, definitely.
yeah.
Uh, so it sounds like you guys try and make them comfortable, make sure that you're there to listen to them, which is really nice.
Yeah, and just help them because it's just a different company. They have grown from scale to amounts where they're now investing in a packaging machine, which
Right.
are very exciting steps. But we understand that they need some help with changing the packaging in order to make it work on a packaging machine in some cases, or that they are going to ask a gazillion questions because it is a serious investment and it's the first time they are doing investments into packaging machines, and with that just a lot of questions come, and that's where we are open
Okay.
to help them.
Where is your equipment made? Is all your equipment made there? And what line of equipment do you offer today to bean to bar makers?
Yeah, so we are based in Holland, near Eindhoven is the city, and that's where we manufacture all our machines. So we are actually sitting here. Well, I'm sitting in a bit of a chilly, air-conditioned area because so we can test during summer.
Ah, okay.
But we have a big factory over here where we build the machines from zero. We just
Okay.
buy all the parts. We designed all the machines ourselves,
Wow.
and we built everything here.
Okay.
And then regarding equipment, and I'll get a little bit more into what packaging styles there are. So if you buy a packaging machine, you basically have three options. The first option is a flow packed bar, and what flow pack is basically sealing of plastic. So there is a continuous motion of you see
Hmm.
here. So it's like how a Mars bar
Mm,
or many bars are wrapped. It's a quite a cheap machine to make
okay.
because it's just basically two pieces of foil going together, and
Mm,
then a heat seal comes and it seals it.
okay.
What we do at Lareka, we think a premium bar should be packed in a premium packaging. So
Mm,
that should be like a nice envelope folded
mm,
packaging style. So stuff like this we don't do. So what we do is the more premium packaging style, which I think fits better for bean to bar makers as well.
right.
So there you have two other options. One is a new build machine, and what you also see is some people have second-hand older machines
Mm,
from like the 1990s or something.
mm,
And so we do some overhauling of those machines, but specifically for the bean to bar market, we have the B2B 25 here in the back. And
okay.
I'll go over in a later stage on what
Sure.
all the differences are between the machines. But
Okay.
this one is specifically made for like bean to bar people. So it's easy maintenance, easy
Mm.
change over time, so all that kind of stuff.
When was this model designed?
I think the first one went on market about 5 years, 6 years ago, something like that.
So you might have sort of answered this already, but what makes your equipment unique from other packaging companies, and why
Yeah.
should chocolate makers consider purchasing or switching over to Lareka equipment? What would you
Yeah.
say?
So the first question there is the discussion: what packaging style do you want? Do you want a
Mm,
flow pack packaging or full envelope packaging?
mm,
Then yeah, well, it's up to the discussion what you like. But in our opinion, a premium bar of like 7, 8 euros should not be wrapped in a flow pack. We think you want to
right.
have like a nice envelope fold there. So if we then specifically talk about machines that wrap in an envelope fold, then you have the two machines.
Mm,
So the first one is the older machine. So that's something that was operational in the 1990s, something like that, and now is being overhauled. And
mm,
then you have this machine.
okay.
Now, what are the biggest differences between of them? Um, the machines that come from the larger industries back in the 1990s, you can buy them on the market relatively cheap now. The issue for bean to bar, well, relative, but the issue for bean to bar makers right now is that those machines, they are quite tough to work with.
Mm,
There is nothing on health and safety done.
mm,
So before you know it, if you go into a folding motion of the machine, you can chop off your fingers. They are very hard to change from size. I don't know if you guys can see it, and we can walk over to there later. But one of those machines is over there.
okay.
I'll walk over there,
It
but
looks
it's very,
familiar. I was in the States, in New York, and there was a chocolate maker there. I don't think they're around anymore, but they had one of those really old wrapping machines, and
yeah,
there was no covers, nothing like I see the one in the background.
yeah,
Very almost manual looking.
yeah. It's and the tricky part is there are a thousand size sets on there. So if you, for example, want to change from a larger bar to a Napolitan, some industrial parties they hire us to change over their machines for them. It takes
Hmm.
half a day of work.
Wow.
Meanwhile, a bean to bar maker, he wants to wrap this bar in the morning, and 5 minutes later, he gets an order of different bars, and he says, "Okay,
Hmm.
we need to produce that now. We have to change to a smaller size."
Right. It's a good
So what we
point.
did, yeah. So what we did on this machine, it's also in just 20 minutes by hand. It's very easy to
Mm.
change it from size.
Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, and then not even to speak on when you get a crash in a machine. If you get a crash in an
Hmm.
industrial machine, it's tough to readjust it and to do it.
Wow.
And this should
Yeah.
be easy maintenance, easy to work with. That's the biggest
Unless
difference.
unless you're in the industry you're in or you're using these machines, you never really think of those sort of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Interesting.
we have
Yeah.
we have had customers. We had the discussion from, okay, am I going for a older machine or the B2B 25? And it has not happened once, not twice, but many times that people do end up deciding, okay, I'm going to go for the second-hand older machine. They invest a lot of money in there, and then a year later, they have bought this machine afterwards because they just cannot get it operational,
Wow.
cannot get it working with all the issues you face there. You really need technical trained staff
Wow.
that can operate such a machine.
No,
And
that's
if you
very
have them, then it's a great option for sure.
right.
But most bean to bar people, makers, or artisanal chocolate makers, they don't have the technical
Yeah.
staff to work with the machine.
Very interesting. That's a really good point for people who are considering the older models.
Yeah.
And when it comes to wrapping materials, what are some innovative wrapping materials you offer? And are any of them more sustainable from a waste pollution perspective?
Yeah. So I'll just grab some stuff here which I placed on the back just for you to show. So a chocolate bar on this machine is wrapped in two layers. The outer layer is a paper label
Hmm.
like this, and the inner layer is a different material which we'll come to in a little bit. First for the outer layer. So we have had as you might understand in the bean to bar market and the craft chocolate market, well, all you guys, you're very aware of the environment and working a lot with
Right.
sustainable materials.
Hmm.
So something what we like to do at Lareka is work together with you because in most cases the manufacturer they already have a existing product and they want to change to a machine, and then we say we're going to test, hey, are your materials working
Mm.
on our machinery? So, for example, Dandelion, you guys know,
Mm,
they have the recycled cotton worked into their packaging. So this has a very unique structure.
mhm,
This is a good example. This is Casa Cacao.
mm.
It's in Spain from Jordi Roca. And the paper that I want to mention is this paper. So this is actually made by hand, this paper.
Wow, it looks like
Um, and you know, when you winnow your beans, you get the shells.
yeah,
This is
yeah.
actually the shells from the beans inside this bar. They are pressed into this paper.
Very cool.
It's made in a museum.
Wow,
So for the outer layer, we've worked with yeah, so many materials that are
that's cool.
biodegradable
Yeah.
based on
Because a lot of people
it's
think when you switch to a machine like that, you're gonna have to get these standard kinds of paper, but you're saying no, you
yeah.
can use you can get very creative.
Yeah, you can, yeah, and if you find something that you really like a paper made from algae, made from grass, whatever, we've worked with so many materials, and
Mm,
it's more the custom work that we say, okay, well, we're gonna test it, and
mm,
we'll go from there. And
interesting.
yeah, it's it's not specifically this is the newest material that is amazing. It's more there's
Right.
so much on the market and there is so much nice materials out there now that it's more about, hey, I already have a material that I like.
Mm,
I want to work with it on the machine. And if you don't, that's where we come into Access Expert as well, because we have seen so much stuff. We can say, well,
mm,
what do you want? Do you want something biodegradable, or do you want
right.
to work with like materials from your bar? And we can point you in the direction from, hey, you should talk to these and these people. And
Amazing.
yeah,
Very
so
nice.
so that's the outer layer, and then
Yeah,
I think the inner layer that's a bit more tricky. So the inner layer, most it comes from a roll like this.
right.
So all your packaging material, which is on the inside of your bar, is going to be on a roll, and whether that be glassine paper or whether that be a transparent foil like this, it always has to be on the bottom.
Mm,
Regarding materials, on packaging machines, the best stuff that works is this. It's aluminium laminate.
okay.
Why is that? Because this has the best of it. Just folds nice for us.
Mm,
When you on the machine, you want materials that fold with the right properties, and it happens to be so that the aluminium laminate works perfect for that.
okay.
However, this is basically a paper on the inside and an aluminium on the outside stuck together.
Right.
So from an environment perspective, it's very hard to recycle this because you have two materials stuck together. What is something very innovative that has come out recently? On this material here, there is like I'm not going to bore you with the exact details, but there's quite a thick layer of aluminium there. And there is a new technique now where people are evaporating aluminium, and the evaporation sticks to the paper.
Mhm.
And the layer on there is actually so thin that it's certified that it can go into a paper stream
Okay.
because the aluminium layer is extremely thin on there, but you
Hmm.
still get the nice appearance out of that.
Interesting. Okay.
Um, and another one I wanted to mention is this. You might think to the naked eye that this is plastic, but this is actually a biodegradable
Okay.
and compostable foil.
Okay.
Which it's something also for the bean to bar or the producer of chocolate to think about.
Hmm.
It's in communication as well. If you are going to put this outside of your chocolate bar and not communicate to the customer saying, hey, you can basically throw this in the garden and it will be
Right.
fine,
Right.
then everybody's going to think, well, why are they using plastic? Or
Mm, mm,
so it's partially about communication there as well. So
interesting.
yeah, and later if you want to see some glassine paper, we have there with some nice coatings on there as well.
Okay.
It's the trick with packaging is, and especially for the inner layers, you still want to have good barrier properties because the
Right.
purpose of a packaging is protecting your chocolate bar.
Right.
So you can wrap it in a banana leaf, but then your
Yeah.
bar is yeah, it
Yeah.
will
Has to
not
be
do good for your
protected
bar.
from the elements, but also from odor, right? Odor
Yeah, from
absorption.
odor. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want the smell to be inside of, well, the flavors to be absorbed into your chocolate
Right.
bar. So you need not good gas barrier properties, but you also need fat barrier properties. So that's why one of the reasons why in most cases glassine paper is quite nice material.
Mm.
So that's this stuff. It just looks like a paper. But in most cases, you will see a coating on the inside because the glassine paper from itself just doesn't have the best barrier properties to protect your chocolate bar.
Right.
And on this one, for instance, you can see it shining.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a biodegradable coating that has been stuck onto this paper
Okay.
to improve the gas barrier properties, to improve the fat barrier properties, and all that kind of stuff.
Interesting. So the question is then, at what volume of chocolate bar production would you think that it's more efficient for a chocolate maker to start investing into a wrapping machine instead of hand wrapping?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So the business case is as followed, and we've done quite some research on this because, of course, it's a selling point of machinery. But what we see, and we've asked many different companies, that on average, it takes about a minute to wrap a chocolate bar by hand. So that's the inner layer has to be folded around, then it has to go on a different paper, the outer layer has to be folded around, then somebody has to go with a sticker and print the date coding on there. Then you have toilet breaks and all that kind of stuff, and then you end up in about a minute for a chocolate bar. We are
And
located
that's
here.
if they're really efficient. Usually they have hiring new people, you got to retrain them, and that adds more
Yeah,
time.
and people leave again, and so I've talked to people that do 2 minutes of 2 bars a minute, but I've also talked to people that do maybe only half a bar, so they take 2 minutes for a bar to be wrapped. So it depends a bit on the process, but on average we see it's about a minute.
Okay.
Now we're located in Western Europe. Wages here, they are about 30 euros an hour for the employee. So that's including
Wow.
the basic cost for the employer, for the employee, but that's also insurance, that's all that kind of stuff. Then you add up to about 30 euros an hour. So that means you have a packaging cost of 50 cents per bar.
Right.
Rough numbers.
Yeah.
Now on this machine, you can wrap 25 bars per minute. So it's all about, then you quickly can come to the sweet spot from where it makes sense to wrap a chocolate bar. What we see is that the business case for a machine becomes really solid when you wrap around 5,000 bars a month, and increasing upwards from there, the business case only becomes better. And then you start at a payback of around 3 years. But if you produce 100,000 bars a year, of 200,000 or 300,000 bars a year, payback times can quickly go down to a year or even less. So it depends a bit on your volumes and how much you exactly spend in labor cost and how many bars you make. So it's always depending on the customer, and we do that together with them if they are wondering, hey, can you go over with the business case for me? We always do that. But you should think the point from when you start thinking about investing in a machine is when you reach near 5,000 bars a month consistently. Then start talking about packaging machines and what the options are and how you can grow your business with that.
Aside from speed, what else? What are some other benefits of using a machine to wrap your chocolate bars?
Yeah. So I just explained it takes about a minute to wrap a chocolate bar. So I was talking to a company in France. They're called Encuentro. I think I have the bar in the back there. And I was talking to the owner. I said, well, I asked him this question: what has changed for you? And he said, well, back in the day, an order of 600 bars was an issue because you need somebody full-time hand wrapping for a day long to wrap 600 bars. On this machine, you do it in half an hour. So he never had to think about organizing his employees anymore. He never had to think, oh man, they want to order 2,000 bars. How am I going to wrap this? Because you just 2,000 bars, you do it in an hour.
Right.
So it's this machine is not also it's not really about speed. Almost nobody uses this machine to its full capacity, but it's more because it brings so much more convenience
Mm.
into your process. You can take on bigger orders. You can, just work it out there.
That's
So
a
that
really good
that's
point. There's nothing
uh,
worse for a small private company to have to turn down orders because of,
because
not being able to fulfill them soon enough. Yeah.
and then you take on the order, and the next day your employee is sick, and
Yeah.
then you're hand wrapping again all day long. So those are for
Interesting.
him. That's something the biggest change.
Okay.
For him, it was the convenience and not
Mm.
having sore fingers anymore from all the hand wrapping.
And so many chocolate manufacturers face a bottleneck at the point of packaging. So just curious, is there any way to make this more efficient if they're not ready to invest into equipment to wrap the bars? So since you guys deal with efficiency and wrapping,
Yeah.
just thinking, is there any pointers you can give these makers when they're not quite ready yet to buy the machine, what they can do to speed it up and
So one of the discussions, what you can do is you can go for flow pack. That's not something we do here at Lareka, but these machines are cheaper than the full envelope fold. And
mm,
again, there's where the discussion comes. Do you want your premium high-end bar to be in what I think, in my opinion, is a cheap packaging design? But yeah, that's up for everybody to make their own mind on. That's something you can do, and the harsh truth is if you are folding chocolate bars with a nice fold, it just takes time.
right.
You just have to put in the effort, and there's not really much to speed up the process.
Mm,
Some advice I would give anybody that's is either starting a chocolate packaging or chocolate factory, or is starting or has been growing for quite a while. You have to think about a scalable product.
mm,
Yeah, you will not believe the amount of times that somebody has the most amazing packaging, and they do like by hand. They even tie a knot and they put some sprinkles on there, and then it's the perfect packaging. But something like that is just not scalable on any machine.
mm,
If you don't think about a scalable product, and you think, oh well, I will see when I get to the volumes of
right,
a packaging machine. By the time you are talking to us, then we are going to say, well, yeah, I mean, we cannot hand tie a knot on your chocolate bar, and then you are going to say, well, but that's my brand identity. That's
right.
why, because everybody is buying my bar.
Mm,
So you're going to save yourself a lot of headache if you think from the beginning about, okay, what is something that is scalable later, also for a machine, and you can still do very nice stuff like this. Like this has 3 layers, packaging around, and we are always open to have the discussion with you.
mhm,
But if you think of a packaging which is impossible to pack on a machine in a later stage, it's just hard to change then, because it's either you're losing your brand identity
right.
and you're compromising for something that you don't want to, or it's just not possible and you never get to grow past the point of hand wrapping.
Right. No, that's a very good point. I think some people don't consider. So thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned earlier that maybe you can show us how the machine works, or did you want to do that now?
Yeah, for sure. What we've been talking about is you have quite some options in machinery. And just for purpose, I set up one of our new build machines here. And in just a little bit, we can also walk over to, for example, an older machine to show what the differences are. Here I just set some bars. So this has everything you see down here, all has been packed on this machine.
Okay.
I'll first go over the basics, how it works. So earlier, you guys saw the roll of foil that's here
Yes.
on the machine now.
Okay.
It goes over those rolls, and when a bar is wrapped, it's cut here by a knife,
Mm,
and then it goes into the folding box. And
okay.
in the folding box, you can also see there is a label on top. So this is a pre-cut label over here. So you have both layers laying in a machine like this. And
Okay.
this is the outside of your packaging.
Mm,
When the bar goes up to the machine, it goes up through this folding box over here and comes out like that. So it's wrapped around the
Ah,
chocolate bar over here.
okay.
The machine, it works semi-automatic. So there is a sensor in the back, and as soon as it sees there is a chocolate bar, it does a wrapping cycle.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
so it works on compressed air and electricity. So the sound you just heard was the pressure going on to the machine.
Right.
So now it's ready to wrap. And if you
Okay.
listen carefully, if I open the hood again right now, you hear like poof.
Mm. Hmm.
That's a safety system. So when you hear that poof, nothing in the machine can run anymore, and I can easily
Mm.
stick my fingers around here and here, and without the danger of the machine moving out of nowhere.
Okay.
So I put the pressure here on again, and then I press the green button. Now the first one will not have packaging because I just took it out of the machine.
Right.
But there you see again the two layers, they
Right.
are in position right now. And then it's just a matter of pushing bars in like this. You can
Hmm.
see the foil running.
Wow.
And it's just as easy as that. And as long as I keep feeding in bars, it keeps on going.
Okay. So you just need somebody there to feed in the bars and keep an eye on how it's
Yeah,
coming out.
exactly.
Okay.
And we can even, there was a bar falling off at the end. We can even put like an automated in-feed belt over here and a big buffer table over here. So you need less people at the machine.
Ah,
But just for basic, that's when you really go towards the higher
higher
volumes of
volume.
the machines.
Yeah.
But if you produce, I don't know, between 50 and 100K bars a year, this works fine. And then even at the later stage, you can
Hmm.
always choose in a year or two to put an automated belt here and upgrade your machine
Mm.
for a bit. Now, something which
Wonderful.
is very unique, what we talked about earlier, is actually this part. It's the heart of the machine. I
Okay.
will show you on one of the older machines in a little bit, but those are very hard to change from size. On this machine, you can wrap any bar from this size. You see here the small chocolate to a
Ah.
bigger bar to a bar like this. All of them can be wrapped on just this machine. What you
Mm.
do is you buy one of these tooling sets over
Hmm.
here,
Hmm.
and within just 20 minutes, you can take out this tooling set. I have one over here. So that's a box like this.
Hmm.
Put in a different box for a different size. And then 20 minutes later, you can wrap whatever bar you want. It's all by hand. So it's, and I don't know if I can do it. So you take out screws like this.
Okay.
It's just very easy to
So
get them out there.
the other box you showed me was preset for a different size bar.
Exactly. That's actually for this bar, for this size.
Okay. And so
Because the outer,
do you buy them already set or you have to set it themselves, like to the size you need?
yeah, so we design those sets to the
Okay.
shape of your chocolate bar. So
Okay.
if you already have an existing product like this,
Right.
we design a set for this product.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, and for example, Encuentro, so they have a big bar like this. And
Mm.
then a couple of years later, they decided to introduce the mini bar.
Mm.
So then they just bought, say, hey, we have a new shape and we want a size set for it, and that's this size. So
Wow.
they send us
Okay.
a bunch of chocolate and we develop one of these boxes.
Excellent. No, that's
Yeah.
very efficient.
And then just to give you an idea on
Yeah.
an older machine. Um, Now, and this one is a bit more high speed, but you also have them which are a bit more in the range of a craft chocolate maker. Uh, if you want, and now the whole size set is of it, but you see
Mm.
all these screws here,
Yep.
everywhere there are different unique size part sets. So if you want to change
Wow.
this machine from size, you need to hire him for a day, and he comes to your factory to change a machine like this from size. But it's not something you're gonna do yourself or think
Mm.
you figure out, or it's just very hard. And
Yeah.
if we walk a little bit, so yeah, welcome to Lareka, guys. This is our factory.
Very nice.
Uh, and if we walk a little bit more in the back over here, I'm sure we have a machine with the size set on it right now.
Okay.
Um, Let me see. I think it's over here. So these are some of the older machines, and this one is
It looks
half.
like, yeah.
There is no size set on it right now, but you can imagine the box that I just showed you. That's
Yeah.
what goes in here, and you
Okay.
have all these different parts that you need to adjust
Wow.
in order to make it wrap. And sometimes it's not a fixed setting. You have to kind of manually move the part from left to right.
Wow.
So there is also some adjusting to make it work again. It's not just putting the box in. No, you actually have to
Yeah.
fine tune it
Yeah.
again in order to wrap those bars. So yeah,
You have
for
to
a
be a
craft chocolate
machinist
maker,
to switch it over.
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is one of the buffer belts I showed you. So this is where you can
Ah,
stock it full of chocolate. It goes into an
look at
automatic milk
that.
feed and then
Wow.
into the machine.
Huh.
So
Amazing.
it's a bit messy here right now because of course we're building and testing.
Right, right. No, thank you. That's amazing to see that. It really, especially when you compare to the older machines, you really see how compact and efficient this new model is. It's
Yeah, exactly. Its size is an issue because the BTB it's only 2 meters long and 1 meter
yeah,
wide, while a machine like this it takes up two, maybe three times the space.
right, right. Wonderful.
And also in maintenance, it's a machine like this maintenance. Basically, the biggest maintenance that you have to do is get a spray can of oil and spray around some nozzles. It's just like a like a any spray can. It's this over here. You just spray these nozzles a little
Ah,
bit
okay.
and
Yeah, loosen it
you're
up.
good to go. But on the older machine like there, you see down in the bottom,
Yep.
that's where all the curves are. That's a piece which is all filled with liquid oil. So if such a
Ah,
machine starts leaking, your whole workshop will be full of oil,
oh my goodness.
and it's just in my opinion not for the best
Right,
machine for craft chocolate makers. That's why
right.
we this is all for more industrial parties.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, for some makers, this would be a dream to have in there.
Yeah.
Efficient, compact, and yeah, that was amazing. Very
Yeah,
nice.
just again work towards those numbers. If you are like around 5K
Right.
bars per month consistently, then you're seriously getting to the volumes where such a machine makes sense and there is a good business case on it. So
Okay. And where do you currently offer your products and where do you ship to?
yeah, so that's actually a good question. Um, the where do we ship to? We offer all around the world. So we're based in Holland, but we almost export every machine that we sell. We sell maybe one machine a year if we're lucky in Holland, and the rest is all over the world.
Hmm.
Um, where do we sell the most? Basically, where chocolate is eaten a lot and labor cost is high. Because the business case for
Right.
this machine, it's all about labor costs of hand wrapping versus machinery. So we see that we sell a little bit less machines, for example, in India or South America, where
Right.
it's just easier to get by, or not to get by, but to find people on a decent price.
Hmm.
But if you're here in Western Europe or New Zealand or USA, basically where a lot of chocolate makers are, a lot of chocolate is eaten, and labor cost is high, that's where
Makes more
most of these
sense. Yeah.
machines go to.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. What is the best way for, if someone's interested in your products, how can they start connecting with you?
Yeah, so if you're just looking around and don't want to talk to us yet, we actually have a YouTube channel and an
Okay.
Instagram. That's where we try to make a lot of videos from customers when we install a machine or when we do new upgrades for the machine. You'll find that on there. So our Instagram is chocolate packaging machines. I'll send that link to you later.
Sure.
And on YouTube, if you search for Lareka chocolate packaging machines, you'll find us.
Okay. I'm assuming you have the links on your website to YouTube.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Good. Well, thank you
Yeah,
very
and
much.
if you're ready to have a discussion, also if you're not sure if your packaging can be done, not just on us, but any machinery, we're always open to help you and figure you out, point you in the right direction. Also, if it's chocolate, but some machines that we don't build, not build, we know the business, so we're always happy to help people and get them
Wonderful.
going. So
Excellent. Well, this was really interesting, actually. Sometimes packaging sounds kind of boring, but it was actually really interesting to see. So thank you
yeah,
very much.
there's a lot to packaging, and I think it's a fun part of chocolate. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge and getting us some insight into these machines. And I wish you very well with your company. And
thank
thank you
you.
again.
Same goes for you. Thanks for the questions and the time. I enjoyed the call. So
Excellent.
yeah,
Thank you, Pep. Nice to meet
all
you.
right.
Take care. Download the free Bean to Bar app to connect with incredible chocolate makers from around the world. Also, be sure to visit beantobarworld.com, your portal for all things fine chocolate, virtual tastings, free learning resources, research, and much more. Subscribe to the newsletter to stay in touch and donate to the free app and free resources here. Contact me for any chocolate related questions you may have.